Good morning. It's Friday, June 5th, and school starts Monday, this coming Monday, June 8th. I thought I would take you through the syllabus a little bit before school starts on Monday, since we're going to hit the ground running on Monday and things are going to happen pretty quickly. So you can go to Canvas and look at the syllabus, and I hope you do that and look at all the details, but I want to go through it in a fair amount of detail right now, just to give you a really good overview to begin with how the course is going to proceed this summer. So I'm looking at the syllabus right now, and I'm just starting at the top. The textbook. This is the textbook. If you were to buy a hard copy or a loose leaf copy of the book, it would look like this. If you were looking on the internet for the book, and it shows a cover of the book, whether it has a cover in the version you're going to get or not, the cover would look like this. So it's the 8th edition of Hockenberry and Nolan's Psychology, not Discovering Psychology and not any other author, not any other title. There's many different versions of the book out there. You can use the audio book, a rental, an ebook. You can use a hard copy, a softbound copy. It doesn't matter to me. We're going to cover 14 chapters. We're going to cover basically a chapter every day, couple of days. So it's going to happen pretty quickly. It's be a good idea to get some version of the book. You're going to get detail and the full exposure to psychology through the book. My lectures that I'll YouTube online will give you the highlights and my version of what I want you to know in each one of the chapters. I think, as I sent out an email earlier this week, and hopefully all of you got that. If you didn't, you should check the email that you have set up with the school. As I said in that email, my guess is that many of you are going to be crunched for time this summer. I already know that some of you are going to be taking multiple classes and some of you are working full-time while you're taking the classes. So it's going to be intense. The way the class is set up is that you should be able to get a decent grade in the class, a B, possibly an A if you're a really good student. If you don't really get the book, don't really concentrate on it too much, and just use my lectures. However, having done the lectures over the last several weeks and edited them and being forced to look at them, I have to admit I'm not the greatest lecturer online. I'm not built to be an online teacher. I much prefer the face-to-face format. And so I know that many of my lectures and parts of my lectures are not the greatest, and they may be kind of boring. Some of them may be quite long. But I'm going to give you the highlights of each chapter that will be covered on the quizzes and the tests. Not everything, but most of it on the quizzes and the tests. And so if you really don't use the book too much, don't get a book, you could probably pass the class and actually do quite well if you're a decent student by just using my lectures. On the other hand, you could probably use the book. If you're a really good book reader, you like to get things from the book, you want all that detail, you could probably do very well in the class with just the book and not really paying a whole lot of attention to my lectures. Now, I wouldn't tell my students this regularly, but in the summer class where I know students are going to be pressed for time, it's going to be pretty intense because things happen pretty quickly and students are going to be cutting corners. This is my advice. You could cut the corners either way. Emphasize the book or emphasize the lectures, one or the other, and still do well in the class. Now, if you wanted to do really, really well and ensure that you're going to learn all that you need to could learn in this summer class, and ensure that you're going to get that A that you need to get into the nursing program or whatever it is that you have a goal for, then you're going to want to get both the book and the lecture and concentrate on getting information from each one. Now, I just know that's going to be a lot of work to read 30 pages of text, say 20 to 30 pages of text every couple of days, and listen to an hour or more sometimes of lecture, in addition to doing the quizzes and the tests every 3 chapters and the discussion board posts and the additional Canvas activities that I'm going to talk about. I just know that's going to be a lot of work, so I'm just up front trying to let you know that you could cut corners and save some time and still do well in the class. So looking at the syllabus, page 2, basically it's all about points in my class. Accumulate points, and if you get 90% or better of the total possible, you're going to get an A, and so on. That's the traditional grading scale. We're going to have a test on every 3 chapters. So we'll cover 3 chapters. We'll have a test on those 3 chapters. The test will be multiple choice questions. They'll be online. You'll have about 67 minutes to respond to 50 multiple choice questions on each one of those tests. So they are timed. You get 1 shot. They can be kind of difficult. Sometimes the detail, you're going to be mad at me because sometimes the detail will be too picky, you'll think. But mostly, if you're keeping up on the material and you understand it, and you're a decent student, most of you should do C or better on the test. The average scores will probably be a little lower on the test than you might get in on other tests and other classes, simply because of the format and the speed at which we're moving, and because I like to make the questions a little difficult on the test and make you think a little bit. But the class is really designed for you to do decently, maybe even not all that well on the tests, but to do well on everything else and accumulate sort of a cushion that will give you some leeway so that when you don't do all that well on the tests, you can still get a decent grade in the class because you've done well on everything else. So if you maximize your points on everything else and you do B minus, perhaps even C plus work on the test, and you get a good grade on the paper, you could still get an A in the class. That's kind of the way the class is set up. You really have to make sure that you get all the points that you can on the other things that we do, so that if you fall down a little bit on the tests, you'll still be okay for a decent grade in the class. Now, we have a quiz on every chapter. So 14 chapters in 6 weeks means that we're going to have a quiz or cover a chapter every 2 to 3 weekdays, and we're going to have a quiz online every 2 to 3 days on each chapter. The quizzes are also online. They're multiple choice questions, 10 questions, and rather, as opposed to the tests where you only get 1 shot and they are timed, the quizzes are not timed and you have unlimited attempts. So take the quizzes as many times as you need to take them to get 10 out of 10 points within the allotted time that they're open to you. Now, the first set of quizzes for the first 3 chapters and even the tests and all the assignments that are due on those first 3 chapters are going to open up on Monday, June 8th, and they're going to close sometime, I think, the next week when we have the test on those 3 chapters. So you'll have several days to do all 3 of those chapters, all the work in those chapters. Okay, so let me skip down to discussion board posts. So on each chapter, there will be a prompt that I'll give you online, and your job is to respond to that prompt and then respond to somebody else's response to that prompt. So you're going to make 2 posts for every chapter, 2 posts every 2 to 3 days, weekdays throughout the semester. You get 3 points for the first post, your original response to the prompt, and you get 2 points for your response to another student's response. So a total of 5 points on each chapter. I'll give you, most of the time, I'll give you 3 points for whatever you put in your original response to the prompt, but I'll be a little more picky on the response that you make to another student in the class, because I found that students tend to cut corners a lot there, and I need to keep you in line and really only give you the 2 points if in your response you have added something to the discussion. In other words, it's not okay for you to say, oh, I totally agree with you, Mark. It really is true that blank, blank, blank. Great response. I love what you said. You put it together really well. Those are actually quite common, those kind of prompt or responses students give to other students' responses. But that's not enough to earn you the 2 points. If you agree with somebody, you can't just simply state the agreement. If you like somebody's responses, what they put in their response, and you simply state that, that's not enough. So if you agree and you like it, say, I liked your response and I agree, it really is true that blank, blank, blank is true, but I also think this. In fact, here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is something else to consider. I think we need to take that into account. Something like that. If you're adding something like that, then I'm going to give you the 2 points. But if you are simply repeating, praising, stating something the other person already stated without adding anything, you're not going to get the 2 additional points. Really, if you're taking this to heart, you should get 5 out of 5 points on every chapter that we're going to cover this semester, and that's going to create a cushion for you, similar to the quizzes, that when you don't do that well on something else, particularly the tests, you'll still do well in the class because you got this extra points that will provide a cushion. All right, in addition to the discussion board posts and the quizzes, you're going to have what I call additional Canvas activities on each chapter. In most cases, I'll direct you to a video online, an article online, and you watch it, you read it, and just to make sure that you've done that, I give you a little mini quiz. Again, it'll be worth 10 points. Most of the time, there'll be 5 questions, each one worth 2 points. And you have to answer those questions to show to me that you actually read the article or viewed the video. The questions are designed to be pretty easy. They're not going to be really detailed. They're not going to really make you think a whole lot. Just pay attention to the video as you're watching it, the article as you're reading it, and get the basic stuff. And you answer these questions. And in most cases, you'll get 10 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or something close to that. I'll give you 2 attempts on these. So again, you have to do these additional Canvas activities within the time that you're allotted online, usually several days for each chapter. But within those several days that they're open, you can take them twice to get maximum number of points. And again, you should be able to get most of the points, if not all of the points that are possible on the additional Canvas activities for each chapter, and that'll help you to get a good grade in the class. Now, you also have to do a paper in the class, and I have made this paper due at the very end of the semester. Let me go over it just a little bit right now, but I'll probably at some point tell the class, look, if you turn your paper in early to me, I'll give you extra credit for turning in early. It's going to help me to be able to grade all the papers in a timely fashion, and it's going to help you to know how I grade writing and how much the writing portion of the class is going to affect your grade in the class. If you turn in your paper fairly early and I give you some extra credit for it, that will also help you know how well you need to do on the other things in the class throughout the rest of the semester to be able to get the grade you want in the class. I mention that because since the paper is due on the 13th of July, which is the Monday of the last week of class, most of the work that we're going to do in the class has already happened, and so you can't go back and sort of make up and compensate for maybe a lower grade on the paper at that point in the class because it's already been done. So I always feel a little bad when students do well on everything else and things are looking good, and then they turn in the paper and they're just not that great of a writer, and there's all sorts of errors, English errors and grammar areas, and they just really didn't get the idea that I wanted, so it turns out that they got a C on the paper. And then there's not any time really to make that up and to compensate for that through doing well on the other things in the class because we've already done them. So anyway, if you do the paper earlier and turn it in, and I can give you feedback on it, and then you can, whether you need to do the extra credit paper that you can also do to enhance your grade in the class. Anyway, I think it'll be a good thing for you to do the paper as soon as you feel comfortable, as soon as you can in the semester. But it's technically due in Canvas on the 13th of July. Now, the paper is basically supposed to be a summary analysis paper of an article that you get from the internet, from some other place. Not a textbook, not a brochure, not a pamphlet, not a chapter in a book or a Hollywood movie or anything like that. I want you to get a standalone article about psychology. It doesn't have to be a journal article, but it should have some scientific basis. It should kind of have some research information, some information put together by psychologists, and usually some sort of perspective on that. And it helps if the article is something that you're interested in and it is debatable or discussable, so that you can give me your own views and your opinions on it in your analysis of the article. If you find an article that's just full of a lot of information and there's not a whole lot that you can say about it in the analysis part of the article, of the paper, then it's probably not going to be a good one for a good source for this assignment. You're going to find an article. Actually, let me back up. The article should also have an author, a specified author. It should be at least 3 pages of text. If you get rid of the graphics and everything else, it should be at least 3 pages of text. You then, once you find this article, and you can go to Psychology Today, psychologytoday.com. You can go on the internet and just Google, just search for topics you're interested in. You can go to the ARC online library, look up research databases and the psychology journals, and put in keywords in a search engine to find articles related to a topic you're interested in, and then wade through them, search through them, and find the ones that are long enough that are interesting enough to you and that you have something to say about. And basically anything is wide open, except for, again, I don't want articles that are just information only, that there's nothing really to add to. I don't want chapters in a book or excerpts from a longer article. It should be a standalone article, not brochures, not pamphlets, and not movies. Now, you can use a TED Talk or something like that from the internet. That's fine. So anyway, you're going to get this source. You're going to write a 4 to 5 page paper on it. Half of the paper, or roughly half of the paper, should be a summary of the article in your own words. Your job is to kind of assume that I haven't read the article and to make it so that I don't need to read the article in order to get the main points. I want to know if you have the ability, I want to see that you have the ability to summarize some roughly scientific literature about psychology in your own words, capture the main points, and then I want to know that you have the ability to analyze that in terms of your own personal perspective and in terms of kind of deeper ways of thinking. In the analysis, I want you to give me kind of I statements a lot. I want you to tell me, I feel this, I believe this, I think the author made a good point here, and this is something that we should pursue, that is mentioned in the article, but there's this other issue that I'm worried about or that I'm thinking about, and I want to discuss that a little bit. It should be clear to me in your paper when you're summarizing and when you're analyzing by using the right words. The author stated this, and another main point of the article is this. And then in the analysis, I feel this way. It's my opinion that. Now, you can use personal experiences, but I'm more interested in your ability to discuss deeper issues and to use those personal experiences as a way of making points of your own, as opposed to just filling your analysis with personal experiences without any kind of deeper discussion. And again, as I've said, it's helpful to find an article that has some controversial or debatable issues that you could discuss, and maybe discuss from multiple perspectives. I think good scientists are able to say, well, yeah, this is true, but here's another perspective that we need to consider, and so let's bring that in here and discuss that along with this perspective, and maybe play devil's advocate and argue this side and argue that side. That's the kind of thing that shows deeper thinking that I'm really interested in this paper. Now, to go back to the writing in general, as I've already kind of alluded to, I want to point out that I'm not an English teacher, but I do think that writing is really important, and I need to make sure that students get good experience in writing and the good skills, and they learn good skills to write clearly. And so I will grade your grammar, your sentence structure, and so I want you to go into writing this paper with the idea that you're going to make it your best possible writing. You're going to dot every I and cross every T and make sure that every sentence is a complete sentence and that you're following all the basic rules of grammar. For one thing, it's going to be much easier for me to read and understand what you're writing if that's true, and I'm likely going to be annoyed and frustrated if I have a hard time figuring out what each one of these sentences means because your English is not good. And for another thing, you need to understand that if you don't write like that, if you don't write well, like I want you to write, when you write a cover letter for an application, for a job, or something like that, chances are that the employer, the person who's making a decision about you on the basis of your writing, is going to give your paper a lot less credibility, a lot less attention when you don't write well. And I know I've been in a position where I've been involved in hiring people and reading through resumes and cover letters, not only in academics but in other areas of life. People whose writing is not good, their material, their resumes, their cover letters don't get really read with the same degree of interest. All right, I will talk about that more later. I actually have a video associated with the paper assignment online, but I'm going to update it because it's a little old and I want to make sure that it's current for the way we're doing things now. Now I'm looking at the back page of the syllabus. It shows the schedule, and it's actually pretty intimidating. On Monday, the quiz for Chapter 1 will open up. The discussion board will open up. The additional Canvas activities will open up, and you can do Chapter 1 on Monday. It's due on Tuesday, June 9th. So you'll have basically 2 days to look at my lecture, read the chapter, skim the chapter in the textbook, and to do the quiz, the discussion board, and the additional Canvas activity. And then on June 11th, we're going to have Chapter 12. That's going to be due. The discussion board, the quiz, the additional Canvas activities. Now, that's going to open up on Monday the 8th as well, but you can do that until the 11th at midnight. Now, you can work ahead a little bit. You can do Chapter 1, 12, and 11 all on June 9th if you want. But Chapter 12 stuff is going to be due on June 11th, and Chapter 11 material is going to be due on June 15th. And then on June 15th, which is a week after we start, we're going to have a test on chapters 1, 12, and 11. Again, it's going to be 50 questions, all multiple choice. It's going to be timed. You get one shot. Then we cover chapter 2. June 17th, you're going to have the quiz, the discussion board, the additional canvas activities. And then June 19th, you're going to have the same thing for chapter 9. And June 23rd, you're going to have the same 3 things due for chapter 3. And then we're going to have a test on chapters 2, 9, and 3 on June 23rd as well. Now, when these things are due, you will have no longer have an ability to complete the work there. So you have to do them on time. You can do them ahead of time when they're open, but you cannot do them late. And I don't allow makeups. Now, in lieu of makeups, what I do is I drop the lowest quiz score, the lowest discussion board post, and the lowest additional activity, canvas activity score in each area through the semester. So whatever your low score is in each one of those categories is going to be dropped. If you miss one of those or you don't do well on any of those, then it's going to be dropped. You don't need to worry about it. And if I think that this is pretty intense and scores are pretty low, I may actually drop the 2 lowest scores in each category just to help you out a little bit. Okay, so I think that's basically everything I want to say about the way the course is set up. I hope that it works out well for us, you and I hope you learn a lot. I hope your thinking is deepened and you have a better ability to think critically about some of the scientific and controversial and discussable, debatable issues we're going to talk about. I hope it's overall a good experience for all of us. Now let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I've been teaching at American River College since 1989, first as a part-timer and then as a full-timer since 92. I was born locally in North Highlands, lived there for a year, and then moved to Carmichael and went to grade school, junior high, and high school in Carmichael, and then went to American River College in 1973 and 1974. Went to Brigham Young University for a year, and then went to a church mission in Japan for 2 years, and then came back, finished up at BYU in 1978, I think, and came back, Sacramento, worked for a year or 2, and then went back to grad school at Notre Dame and got my PhD in social psychology in 1985. And then I went to work for a marketing research company in Indiana for about a year or more, and then wanted to come back to Sacramento and worked for Eschaton and long-term care doing research, and Beverly Enterprises, another long-term care company, and did marketing research for them, and then floundered around a little bit doing marketing research for a wholesale startup drugstore chain, and then got into academics back again and started teaching here. Love to travel pretty much all over Europe and also Japan, and hope to travel some more in the future. When I'm doing my videos in here, you'll see things on the wall. This is my family when we were much younger. This is them also. One of my daughters. And this is a picture that I drew, copy, basically, when I was 16 years old. This is another one I did when I was about 18. So that was probably a little bit self-indulgent, but students usually get to know me through the course of the semester when I'm lecturing face-to-face, because I weave in all sorts of stories to illustrate what we're talking about in class. And you're going to miss out on most of that, so I just thought I would let you get a little bit bigger glimpse of my life and who I am. I sent out an email earlier in the week asking you to all send me a description of yourself so I can get to know you a little better. I hope that you all do that. In fact, I want you all to do that, require that. I need to get a description of you, a little introduction of you from each of you by the end of the first week of class. I've gotten several of those already, and I hope to get the rest of them real soon. So anyway, hope you have a great semester and that things go well. And if you ever have any questions, any concerns, anything you need to talk to me about anytime, feel free to email me, stewarm@arc.losrios.edu, stewarm@arc.losrios.edu. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And I want to make this work, so and I can be flexible. So just let me know if there's issues. Thanks. See you soon. Bye.